And a beautiful morning it is. Good morning, everybody. You've stepped into the right place and you know exactly where you are. You're here at Sunshine's Corner on Blab TV. And of course, I invite you every day to sit back, relax, and pick up the phone. Tell somebody to tell somebody. When you want to know what's happening in Pensacola, you've got it locked into the right one. We are the community station that's going to keep you abreast of what's going on and around in our community. And I always invite you to be a part. And you know, every single day, I invite in a different guest to share things that are most important to you. And today is no different. Oh, yes, it is. I've got somebody in today that is truly an entrepreneur in every single sense of the word. And I am so pleased to have in the studio with me, Mr. Quint Studer. Good morning.
I mean, this isn't tape, it's live.
This is live.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Nah, you're not nervous, not you. But thank you so much for getting up early to come in and join with me on this great show today.
I just, as you know, love you. We go way, way back.
Way back.
I love what you do for the community. You are who you are.
Yes.
And of course, we talk about your parents are going to find out
Yes.
a little more why you're like you are. And I love, as you know, I had Blab for a couple of years.
Yes,
I tell
you did.
people I kept it on oxygen until somebody that knows how to run it, Doug, could come and run
Yes,
it.
he is.
But I'm very committed to local media.
Yes.
And so when I wrote my book, Building a Vibrant Community,
Mm-hmm.
and it actually, Charleston, South Carolina just asked me to come speak, Jacksonville, Florida, on community, developing and creating community. And I talked about why it's so hard today. Because in the old days,
Exactly.
you had a local employer that really was powerful, and we don't have many of those anymore because, you know, all the companies are so big.
Absolutely.
We had local media. Most of the media today is not local.
You got it right.
It's
I
owned
know.
by somebody else. And in fact, I just saw a neat story. I was in Palatka, Florida 5-6 years ago. They read my book, and in fact, I'm doing some things for them just about for free, of course. And I just read that a local individual bought the newspaper because he wants to keep the news local.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was cool.
Absolutely.
And so we don't have a lot of the local stuff, local banks, local media. So I think to have something like Blab and have all the great shows on Blab
Absolutely.
is really vital to our community.
I agree with you 100%. And I really want to just to tap on that even stronger. I'm strong about the community and the fact of how everything is going. Everything is worldwide when you're talking now. I tell my friends all the time, when you even listen to the radio, you can drive in this town and go to the next town and hear the same thing. Or you're never going to hear them say what time it is. That's the total hour. You're going to say 20 minutes over, 20 minutes past.
Yeah.
And but with local media, this is the opportunity where we can keep it local so that the people here, that we can grow more to interact, to increase and better our living standards, you know?
Yeah, I think too, if you find a lot of media, today, you know, the reason the guy bought the local Palatka paper, he said, is because he wants to have local news. I think local's really important.
I do too.
And I've talked to Lisa at the News Journal quite a
That's
bit
my girl.
about that. Because at one time, you know, I was a little frustrated with the News Journal, so I started something called Pensacola Today.
Yes.
And it was actually doing quite well. And then Lisa called me, because she was brand new in town.
Exactly.
And she said, why are you doing this? I said, well, because I want local news. And if you did local news, I wouldn't do it. She said, well, I want to do local news. So we took, you know, we stopped Pensacola Today, because I didn't want to run Pensacola Today. I wanted local news.
Absolutely,
and if somebody
absolutely.
else does it, and I think Lisa does a nice job. Rick at the Independent. There's a lot
Yes.
of good local stuff going on right now with coverage.
I agree. And I got to say, good morning to Rick. Hi, Rick. Now, Rick and I go way back because,
I know you do.
we go way, way back. And I appreciate what he does, how he puts himself into it, you know. And he's that person that I love the way he speaks out. And I believe in that. And that's another foundation for the show. That we can talk about things that are so important to the community. For instance, some of the things that you're doing, I think we were talking off camera about, even with, I love the fact, when you first introduced this to me about children, how the learning process from 0 to 3.
Yes.
I was like amazed. I said, oh, really? But now I understand so much more now than I didn't then. And how you got that instituted as well. We're going to get into that because I love to share that.
No, I do too. I've learned a lot on that too, and I'm still learning.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be working with Dante so that I can learn even more. But everybody, what we're talking about, the fact of this is how the formative years of a child. And You would think, they say, oh, but the age of 3, they're so young, but you don't understand what's being planted in that child. Up until then, it's up to us to plant the seed.
Yeah, we have we've created this thing called Build a Brain, Build a Life, Build a Community to take this outside of Pensacola, because we want to help all children. And so we hired a number of people. One of them is Stephanie Montgomery, who moved here from Atlanta. She's a PhD in research. And I just had her on my Healthcare Plus podcast. And I learned again, and I've been into this, a baby's brain is born smooth. It's smooth. And you see a brain, you see all those
little indentations, yes.
Yeah, those indentations come from verbal communication. And that creates those indications in the brain where the neurons stick to.
Really?
So the more you talk to a child, the more you're building the brain, which is like a muscle.
Right.
And it's all based on words. So when a child hears, not through video, but through human conversation, and they build the brain.
Right.
And 80 to 85% of the learning ability the rest of their life is developed by age 3. And that's how I got into this. And the person who really got into this, when you think about it, who we brought to town years ago, was Dr. Dana Suskin.
Right.
She's a cochlear implant surgeon at Comer Children's Hospital in the University of Chicago. Because when we've all seen the video where the child hearing for the first time.
Yes.
Well, the question was then, how much did they lose by not hearing earlier?
Oh, I understand.
And most people with hearing impairment take longer because they're not getting the words.
Absolutely.
They can, but it takes longer. So she did piggybacked on some research that had been years ago in Kansas, and wrote a book called 30 Million Words. Wow. And so when she was in town, I brought her in town, and she was explaining how it works. She said the frustration in Chicago was getting to the young moms, particularly moms possibly very young.
Of course.
Maybe moving around to a lot of locations.
Absolutely.
Maybe not trusting some of the people in their lives, particularly healthcare people. And so they were trying to go to homes, and she said it was so hard. So I just, excuse me, innocently said, well, what if we got to the mom before she left the hospital?
Absolutely.
And she said, do you think you could do that? So at the time I called Susan Davis, who I love, at Sacred Heart, Carlton Ulmer, who now works for Build a Brain at West Florida, and Mark Faulkner, and just said, can we do this? And we have. And then University of Chicago, many people might not know this, they hear a lot about the brain bag, but they did not allow us to use the brain bag for 1,200 moms. Because see, not every community is going to give the brain bag.
Okay.
So they want to do peer-reviewed research on doing an instruction with a mom and showing a video that they produced have an impact. So they traced 1,200 moms for 3 years.
Wow.
And we have peer-reviewed research with Escambia County as the beta site that shows that when parents get the video, moms or parents get the video, that the child ends up in better shape.
Absolutely.
Now, people asked me when we started, how do you know it's going to work? And I said, we won't know for 5 years. Because the issue is moving kindergarten readiness.
Absolutely.
Which at the time was 43%, which puts such pressure on our public school teachers when children come in behind.
I understand.
Then the peer research also showed that moms from a lower socioeconomic did actually better because they moved up.
Of course.
Because what I tell people, what every mom has in common, no matter race, you can be a 16-year-old mom and a 40-year-old mom with your first baby. You can have money, you can not have money, you can have all sorts of situations. So a lot of the moms are very not the same in anything, but they are the same in one thing. Right. They all love their baby.
Always.
And they want their baby to do well.
Absolutely.
And we've seen moms cry when we say to them, we're not saying you can get out of poverty.
Nope.
But your child can get out
Absolutely.
of poverty. So we're real pleased with it. We have other research we've done. When a mom leaves the hospital, they do a survey on how much were you 1 through 10 before, after. So it's a work in progress, but we've gotten it up to 50%.
Absolutely.
And
that's very well.
Well, it's very inexpensive.
Exactly.
See, we don't have to fund a lot of staff because the nurse is already in the hospital.
Absolutely.
So we're doing this on a shoestring. So that's why you don't read about it a lot, because we're not asking for a lot of funding.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We do get some funding from the state, and we appreciate that. But no, this thing's really done on a shoestring. So even though it's not a lot of money, it's a huge impact.
Absolutely. And you see, that's the difference right there. The impact that it's having on the mothers that are in the hospital who's getting the information, so the betterment for their child, for the next generation.
Right.
And that is absolutely perfect. I want to talk to you also because I love your togetherness, how you share with the community. Now, I have to say to you, Quint, you have done a lot in this community. I mean, and we all know that, and we appreciate the fact that what you've done, how you've, since I've known you, in the 20-something years that you and I go back.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, a lot of people see me now, and they don't realize a lot of these relationships were built before I was Quint Studer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Before I had money.
I got you.
You know, because my wife and I, because of my alcoholism, I didn't have a savings account. We'd have no money because we were getting out of debt.
Right.
Till I was 46 years old was my first time we ever had any money to put like in a savings account.
Really?
I was 48 years old when I started my company. So I tell people, you know, this isn't a quick deal here. This isn't a quick deal. So I got to know you early on.
Yes, we did.
I was riding an elevator when I was at Baptist Hospital working, and I always said to people what's going on. And I met this young guy who was a basketball coach at the Salvation Army.
Right. And, we know who that is.
And his dad was in the hospital, and then one day he stopped by, Lumen May was his name, and he said, you know, was there any way the hospital can fund the Salvation Army travel basketball team? And I said, well, they can't, but I can.
Come on.
So a Woodman State Championship, I
there
think
you
it
go.
had a little bit to do with that. So, and that's how you build relationships.
Exactly.
I met Rick, you mentioned Rick. I met Rick. I didn't know Rick, but when the Maritime Park project started, you know, we got to know each other.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
You just get to know each other and you try to build strong, trusting relationships.
Most certainly, it's so important. And I really want to commend you for that young man we were talking about you met in the elevator. You know, he and I, we do a lot of work together as well.
Yes.
And I commend him. And with you, you just gave me something I didn't know, but I want to expound on that. When listen at this is what I try to convey to everybody every day. It's never too late. You see, when you said that you had alcoholism, that you had to go in, you didn't start, you didn't have the money. You can do things. You can change yourself. If you're in a situation today, that doesn't mean that it have to stay that way tomorrow. You can also better yourself with. You got to have the heart to do it first. You got to want it and then do it. And I try to tell people all the time, I mean, come on, do this. There have been many things that have happened in my life, but it's not going to stop me.
Well, that's why I love recovery, because I get to see miracles every day. One of my favorite stories, too, is a guy named Clancy ran a sort of a drop-in center in L.A., and people would come in that were down and out.
Right.
And he'd say, he'd tell them to go get a job. And they said, well, there aren't any really good jobs. These are unemployed people. And he'd say, well, get one of those other jobs then. You got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. You have to start
somewhere. You have to
somewhere.
start somewhere. And I got a call not too long ago from somebody that said the friend of theirs was in landscaping and had some rough personal issues and really tried to get on their feet again. And, I just dropped a note to Parker Payne at Outer Spaces.
And then, there you go.
And there you go. And
Absolutely.
he's working there right now.
Absolutely.
So you can't do that for everyone.
No, you can't.
But people have to take it. They have to take responsibility for
Most
themselves.
Certainly. I agree. And I stand on those twos every single day. Every day. You know, I stand on those twos.
Yes.
And I believe in making it work.
Well, you learned it. Yeah, I love the story about your father.
Oh, God, yes.
The long-term marriage with your mother.
Yes.
The 8 children that they raised. Your mom going back to school, getting her GED, and then becoming a teacher.
That's right.
And then you going to speak at the school she taught at.
That's right.
See, it's really a miraculous story.
When I got the call, I mean, it literally just, I said, oh, Mother, I said, only you could be there, Mother, you know? But the fact that I get to go back to Alabama and to speak at the Board of Education at their annual banquet, that when my mother was there.
Yep.
And, that's great. You never, ever give up.
My column in the News Journal, which I'm grateful they print every Sunday last week, was on fingerprints.
Yes.
And, if people want to go on LinkedIn, they can subscribe. I think I have 24,000 people that get it on a Tuesday or Wednesday sent to them.
Right.
But we leave fingerprints.
Yes, we
do. And, we're talking today, there's many people in our community that left fingerprints. And even though they're no longer here physically, some people don't even know the impact they had. But they didn't do it because people would know them.
Absolutely.
They just did it because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So you, others, we leave our fingerprints on the community, and that's really neat to see.
And I appreciate you saying that, because I tell you, the community is totally my heart, and I will give the shirt off my back for this community, because I am a part and I want to make a difference with those that are watching, the children, what I'm talking about mostly. Let's go a little bit further. This week coming up, Quint, is Juneteenth, a celebration that we've been waiting on, and now we've got the national holiday.
Waiting on a couple hundred years.
Yes, I'm coming.
It's not like a couple weeks.
Not like a couple of weeks, but look at all these years. But I'm so proud to say, and it makes me feel so good that this is a national holiday now, coming up on the 19th. But there are so many things, and I want to tap on what we were talking about also, how the Blue Wahoos are even a part of this event that's coming up on next week. And I thank them for doing that. And I was telling you about even with the fireworks.
You should thank Commissioner May.
Thanks, Lumen.
That was really his idea. So he approached Jonathan Griffith with the idea, and it kept getting bigger, because the first time Jonathan called me, it was this. Then the next time it's this. Now it's this.
Yes.
And I think when we built the stadium, it was always meant to be a neighborhood.
Absolutely.
That's why we put the covenant for the community.
Absolutely.
That's why we've done things with Negro baseball.
Oh God,
through
yes.
the beginning there.
Oh
with
God,
the Seagulls, the long time coming. We showed the movie 42 there. So we've always been out there, because one of the things I always loved about sports, particularly growing up in Chicago, I never went to a segregated school, ever. I went to an integrated school for the time I was in kindergarten.
Come on now.
Yeah, so I never dealt with some of the things. Certainly there's racism everywhere.
Oh, yes, it is.
I get that.
Absolutely.
But I grew up in a mixed neighborhood, a mixed school. My dad worked in a factory.
There you go.
So baseball, though, to me, it's always a melting pot. When people come in, there's no big classes. Everybody's sort of the same. In fact, that's why when we started the Blue Wahoos, we committed to 35% of our employees being of color.
Absolutely.
Because we wanted to match the community.
Of course.
So it's always been, and of course we got the famous, Mike Crenshaw, the Hammer.
That's Hammer.
Hammer works there. He just got a promotion.
Oh, Hammer did?
Yeah. So it's just, I just love watching. That's why I did the Soul Bowl.
Yes.
That's why we do things, just to get people there, and then they get there, because sadly in our community, when we first opened the stadium, we had people, particularly a lot of people, but lower socioeconomic, black or white, that would come to the stadium because they didn't go to the beach.
That's right.
They had never really been by the water.
That's right.
They had never felt comfortable with that. We had a lady that Brian Spencer, as a council person, bring up the stairs of the stadium, and she started crying.
Really?
And she had never seen the water like that.
Oh, how beautiful.
And that's why Bruce Beach is so important.
Exactly. Oh, God, yes.
Because, I funded the first $250,000 to get Bruce Beach happening was Rishi and I, and because through SCAPE and their planning, and DC Reeves, our mayor, ran that, because that's when he was working with me, and that's why Bruce Beach is so important, because people sometimes in different levels don't have access to the water, don't have access to the beach. So Bruce Beach, with its access. And then, of course, my wife, when her and I went through it, she loved reading all the markers.
But of course.
About the history
of
Bruce Beach. So if you haven't been to Bruce Beach, I really recommend people take a walk.
Absolutely.
I have videos, and what I loved about it is kids playing of all races, all ages.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Because that's what it's supposed to be.
That's how it's supposed to be. And that's what I mean by you touch so many things in this area. As I sit and I listen, there are so many things that, maybe I'm not even aware of, but look at what you're touching, the difference that you're making. And I love the fact when you talk about the fact that we're all the same. Look, may not be in a different social, economically in a different area, but when it comes to people, we're all the same. And I love the fact when you share the story that you did not grow up, you grew up with black people and people of color. And I think that makes a difference, because even though we talk about racism, yes, it is happening today. It is still happening, but we don't have to allow it to take us to back where it was when my mother and father came along. And with the difference that you're making, and I love to say this with the fact that you are Caucasian, but I never think of that when I'm talking to you.
Vice versa.
But, okay, we are just friends that have built a relationship, and I appreciate that. And when I have to tell you this too, Quint, I have a sister that lives in South Carolina, and I talk often about the fact that I'm on your board. And she said, oh, well, you this. She said, well, you tell him I said hi. I can't wait to meet him. And she says, you seen my boyfriend lately?
Yes.
That's our little conversation, but she appreciates the fact of the things that I talked to her about that you do.
Well, and if most people people here might not realize that, but I would say every hospital in the United States of America and in Great Britain, Poland, Australia, utilize my books.
Come on.
So
That was the next thing on my list.
Talking to a fella that we're talking to about doing a development on the ECOA site yesterday, and he said to me, "No, I was in Savannah. I was sitting down with a couple who I know, a friend, and I mentioned your name, and the wife said, oh, I've read 3 of his books." So, yeah, yesterday I do a lot of free work if it's virtual. So Denmark Technical College, which is a predominantly black technical school in South Carolina.
Right.
I did a virtual conference for them. Young, almost all young ladies, one man, who are going to be a nurse. And so, yeah, most of them have read my books, and I always spin a little Pensacola in most of my books to get a little halo.
That's right.
For it. But yeah, and that's been really, really neat. And somebody asked me in the classroom, they had said questions before. They sent questions, and one of the questions was, "What's the most rewarding part of your experience or career?"
Right.
And I said, really, it's the whole fingerprint idea.
Absolutely.
It's that, and when I posted that article on LinkedIn, these people started mentioning, I heard you here, I read your book here, I touched here.
Exactly.
We had a situation, which, and I'll not go too far, I'm back into cochlear implant. I got a note from a person in Pensacola. Her cousin lived in South Carolina, and she read all this early brain stuff. And her child was very hard of hearing, needed a cochlear implant, and she started realizing every day I can't get that is a day I lose with my child's brain.
Exactly.
Getting into a physician is hard.
Exactly.
It's hard for all of us.
Right, of course.
Me included sometimes, so sadly. For all of us.
Exactly, no doubt.
So don't think because I'm Quint Studer I can just plop in either. I'm just in the same line you're in.
Exactly.
So I called up a guy who I know to see if he could help me get her care. And he goes, you will not believe this, but I'm sitting in the waiting room. I'm going to be meeting with the president of the hospital here.
Wow.
And he went in, and she had surgery, and I got a wonderful note and a picture of this mom with her little girl. So that's what this thing's all about.
Absolutely.
It's all about doing what we can to help optimize people's human potential. I was a special ed teacher. It's all about optimizing a student's potential. When I started my company, our vision statement was, our mission really was to make sure that we help every individual maximize their human potential.
No doubt.
So we're all in the business
Absolutely.
of maximizing human potential.
Absolutely. You do a write-up that's it's Sundays.
Sundays, yeah.
Sundays with Quint.
Right.
I think that's good stuff. Okay.
It is good stuff.
Because when I first read it, when I first saw it, I said, "Okay, what do you mean Sundays with?" Then I got to read it, and then I got to looking for it. Tell people about that and how that came about.
Yeah, well, that's Lisa Savage,
right,
at the News Journal, and I write a lot, and I think I might have approached her. I think I approached her, but maybe not. But anyway, I'm not sure. But the question was, I write a lot. I write a lot of columns. I'd love to write a local column.
Right.
And I said, I don't know how long I can do it. We thought 6 months maybe.
Right.
And 6 months would be tops. So I think you need a commercial break.
Yes, we do, because that's how him go. Boom. Okay, everybody, listen. We're going to come back more right after this commercial break, and we can continue this conversation with Mr. Quint Studer, and we're going to find out about Sundays with Quint right here, Sunshine's Corner on Blab TV.
Empire Truck Sales, located at 2255 West Detroit Boulevard in Pensacola, is your Freightliner, Western Star, Detroit Diesel, and Cummins dealer for Northwest Florida. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., providing sales, service, and parts. Empire Truck Sales is also your Oasis dealer for Freightliner custom chassis RV and motorhome repairs. Running I-10 will get you in.
Many who consider facial plastic surgery are concerned their results will look unnatural. But with over 20 years of serving the Pensacola community, his thousands of satisfied patients have made Dr. Derek Jones a trusted reconstructive and facial plastic surgeon known for industry-leading results that look natural. Call 850-484-FACE to schedule a consultation at one of our locations in Pensacola and Gulf Breeze.
I'm Dr. Derek Jones. Trust your face to a facial plastic surgeon.
Lloyd's Glass and Correct Calibration Services is a one-stop shop because you can come get your windshield replaced, and right behind that replacement at the same appointment, we will calibrate the cameras, and when you leave, everything's ready to go. There's no need to go to the dealership, or there's no need to come back for another appointment. We just take care of it at one time. We put the customer first, and we strive to do everything right the first time.
Lloyd's Glass and Correct Calibration Services, your one-stop shop with same-day service.
Animal Allies is looking for volunteers, and there are many ways that you can help. From taking care of cats to using your computer and social media skills, any and all assistance is greatly appreciated. We have morning and afternoon shifts every day or help at adoption events. You can even foster a kitty at home. And it counts towards community service hours for bright futures. Find Animal Allies Florida on Facebook and Instagram, or go to aaflorida.org/volunteer.
And welcome back to this beautiful conversation that we're having today, as always. And I want to appreciate you always for sitting in and waiting for this show, because you know it's all about information. And I believe, and I say this often, knowledge is power. Once you receive that knowledge, you got to use it. I'm so pleased to have with me in studio today is Mr. Quint Studer. And I think we got, I have people always call in. They'll call in sometime, they'll text, but we got a text message. Now, Jen, can you tell me who that text was from and what was said?
I think I texted you that.
Oh! If Ganza rebuilds the bridge like they said, it should be named after you, Quint Studer. Now, isn't that nice? Did that person give you their name, Jen?
Well, that's kind.
Your fingerprint and your footsteps will always be marked on Pensacola.
Bridges are nice because they bring people from one spot to another spot.
I get that.
Bridges of life. So.
Exactly.
So where are we at next? We're Sundays with Quint.
Right, Sundays with Quint. He didn't want to address that, he got past that, but we should name the bridge after. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sundays with Quint. You were talking about the one that you did last week.
So, it was on mid-year conversations. And what happens? All my articles come from real life. In fact, people will say, they wrote that about me. No, I don't. They come from real life. But, because I'm out in the country.
Of course.
I was in Cincinnati this week, and so on. So, and people come to you with things. And then I try to write on these things I learn. And sometimes they're different messages. The fingerprints one was a little unusual. I was sitting at a fundraiser to help bring music to lower income children, and they had a piano player there, and it reminded me of my aunt used to play the piano.
Right.
And came to my aunt, and I thought about my aunt was like a second mother to me, and her fingerprints are still there. Now this last week was on for most of it's for employers.
Okay.
How to have good conversations, mid-year conversations with
read
your
them.
workforce. So we put all these articles together, like it's almost 350 right now. So again, as a fundraiser, I'm very much into the Center for Civic Engagement to bring people together.
That's right.
We bring all these best practices into town.
Right.
We brought the superintendent from Birmingham who took a school with basically poverty and took it from here up,
Right.
and absenteeism went way down. Because if you get kids in school, you have a chance. If they're not even in school, you don't. We have some high absenteeism in Escambia County.
Oh, yes, we do.
So anyway, we said we need a fundraiser. So Lisa picked out 52 columns that she liked, and we titled the book Sundays with Quint. Paula Young, who's an Asian faculty member at the Virginia Commonwealth University in Healthcare Administration, wrote a foreword.
Right.
Bert Thornton from the Waffle House fame, Bert's Chili, wrote a thing. And so you can get it going to Sundays with Quint, and it'll pull you up. Every single dollar goes to help bring best practices into our community.
Excellent.
So we even pay for the printing. So how sometimes people say all profits go?
Right.
Well, there might not be a lot of profits by the time you take your expenses out, which I get. But on this one, we actually pay for all the printing. So if you pay $20, $20 goes. So
that's right.
And it's really nice. I'm going to be speaking at NAIOP here. And one of the things I've done lately, locally, is say, I'll come speak, but if you need to buy a book for everyone, because it goes to a good cause. And then we see how serious they really are about me coming and speaking.
No doubt. You got so many other books.
Yes.
I mean, so many. I go back to one that I still go back to when I'm starting something new I had never done, right here with TV. Remember the book you had, The Firestarter?
Pardon?
Firestarter?
Oh, yeah.
One of those way back then. Do you know I still get points from that now?
Yeah, that book, Hardwiring Excellence, sold 2 million copies.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Because it helps.
Yeah, well, I think, it's just all self-awareness.
Right.
And in my book, Busy Leader Handbook, I interviewed people that invested in companies. And I said, what do you look for when you invest in a company? Now, I think there's some common things like the product.
Right.
Can I raise prices?
Right.
What they call the runway, how
Right.
much market is there for it?
Right.
And I thought they'd say those 3 things.
Right.
And none of them said those 3 things.
Okay.
First, they said, how self-aware is the person? Because we're going to come in and make some changes, and if they're not self-aware, they're not going to like it.
Okay.
And the whole thing is all about coachability. That's
Really?
what we are in life, is how teachable, how coachable and teachable are we?
Absolutely.
So that's really the foundation of most of my work, is building self-awareness. Then if you're coachable, what are the hows? Because most people know the why. They know the what.
Right.
They know the when.
Right.
What hooks us up is well, tell me how. Tell me how.
No doubt. Now, with all the things that you do and all the different entities, let's go back with the hospital. I think they do it, Ascension Hospital, the children. It's just absolutely amazing what you've done with that.
That's when Rishi and I look back on impact, and again, sometimes we did not want to name the hospital after us.
Okay.
Susan Davis said, but we want to name it after you. And it wouldn't be that children's hospital without Susan Davis. She's now on the board of Moffitt,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
All right.
And she lives down in more mid-South Florida. But yeah, so when you look at things that you think you had a huge impact, certainly the children's hospital, we have
It's one
people
at the
come
top.
up at ballparks and say, my child's alive because of and not because of me, it's because of the staff there and the physicians and so on, but you helped. Because we had a children's name, but not a children's hospital. They went into the door that said Children's Hospital.
Right.
They did the best they could, but there wasn't a freestanding children's hospital.
Right.
And that's really a credit to Ascension that brought in a lot of money into that project too. And of course the Bear family was always
course.
there to help.
But of course.
I just texted Belle Bear today because, with Father's Day, I'm sure Lewis is the top of her mind. And I get teary-eyed.
He was such a nice guy. I got to meet him and talk to him on several.
And then the why.
Yes.
You have 1,800 people a day. And one of the things that people might not realize about the why is one of the big components of it was we had a young minority youth drown, because they didn't know how to swim. And so one of the things...
At the what?
No, out in the ocean.
Okay, I got you.
So the Y does a great push to make sure, despite income, every child learns how to swim.
Absolutely.
And the other thing people don't realize about the Y is if the Y can be profitable, and there's no such thing as a not-for-profit.
I got you.
Everything's got to make enough money to do
keep
things.
it moving.
But if you can be financially profitable with the Y downtown, the Y is still the biggest provider of after-school education in Escambia County.
Really?
They go into a lot of schools. So the Y is a big impact that we really feel good about. And of course, the stadium changed downtown Pensacola.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Totally.
there's a person writing a book. Bill Valona wrote a book on 2012 on with the Wahoos. There's a person that I was interviewed by recently that's writing a book on the history of how hard it was to get the stadium built. And he's actually found some old blogs and social media,
Right.
That didn't think it was a good idea, thought I
Right.
was a carpetbagger, a
Right.
crook, everything else they called me.
Exactly. And I think about that when that went up, when that project got started. We were really connected a lot
Right.
then. And but I look at that now, and you see Pensacola, Florida has a stadium like that. One of my ex-co-workers that was from Chicago came back to visit, and I said, well, why don't you meet me at the stadium. He said, what stadium? Because it wasn't here when he was here. But I say that to you again. Look what you've done for Pensacola.
Yeah, and that's a great thing for training. We have lots of interns, and people ask me, what do you like best about the games? I said, I love the sixth inning when you see hundreds of children chasing that roach. I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death because I don't want that roach to get hurt.
We
got some faster kids running now.
I've seen those kids.
We've had to upgrade our roach.
Did you really?
Yeah. We used to just rotate interns.
Right.
Some of them couldn't run as fast as others. So we're looking for little Justin Gatlins now to be the roach. Because we got some fat Demarius Randall's nephew. You know, the football. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he runs. And because Demarius Randall's parents to work for the Wahoos.
Oh, really?
They've worked there the whole time.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
You see what I mean? I mean, and that roach, if you haven't seen that roach, you go to a game and watch those kids chase, they are so highlighted.
Yeah.
That's a highlight of the game.
Yeah.
It's those kids, how they cover that field.
It's always fun, too, because they go from the right field line, and the parents will drop them off, and they're watching them run, and then some of them have never been there and realize, oh, my God, the kid's coming out over there. So you'll see these moms and dads running the concourse, knowing that their kid's going to come out. We actually have people there to watch for children that might be a little wondering where mom and dad are.
Right.
Because mom and dad are still trying to run the concourse to find their child.
I mean, that is excellent stuff right there. That's truly, truly excellent. I want to step a little bit further and talk to you about how it is when you encourage people, just like you said with Hammer, who is working with you there, but that's down at the Wahoo Stadium. Okay, I know that you are the originator who got us that stadium. We appreciate that so much. And the fact that you employ a rainbow of colors.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's beautiful because there are so many people that I've heard, well, I can't get a job there. They're not going to hire me there. No, you got to try first.
That, and I think we also do a really good job with people with challenges.
Okay.
If you come to a game, by the time you find your seat, there'll probably be 3 people in wheelchairs that will have touched you. We hire a lot, not a lot, but we hire a good group of people in recovery.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I was at a recovery meeting one day, and you know, you go in and you're not Quint Studer.
That's right.
You're Quint the alcoholic.
Okay.
I
got you.
And there's no classes, there's no deal. So this guy comes in, he's new in the program, and he goes, I went to a Wahoo game the other night. He said, my God, everywhere I went, I thought I was at a meeting for crying out loud. And then he said, I'm so glad I quit drinking because, you know, they're charging $8 for a beer. And people looked at me and I went like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a prohibitionist. It's just people can and some people can't.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I continue to say the things that you are yet doing in our community. Even when we're at the board meetings, I listen and I'm really observant. And I'm seeing the thing that's in progress. And I think that people should realize, like you say, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a work in progress that you have to do.
Yeah.
And the things that you're doing, we appreciate that. And so many others of the things that you cross over, and I'm all about crossing over. And I want our listeners, viewers, to realize today, I want you to get out of your thought process that it's always going to be just that. And I'm looking straight in the camera because I want them to look in my face when I say this. When you have things that you want to attempt to do, don't allow that to be the thing that's going to hold you back. Because as you can hear, we're talking to a man who has done so much, and he's letting you know that he sees that as no color. You do it as a person who wants to do that you can implement on the things that they want to do. But the first step got to be in you to try.
Well, Peter Senge, I went to a workshop, and for those Peter Senge wrote a book called The Fifth Discipline, and it's probably 25 years old. And I went to a workshop he did, and it was really fascinating because they had you do things. And I'll get to this. So basically, what he did is you were in a room, and he would have you. He'd have different groups, so you didn't know what was going on. So you'd look at a dot on the wall,
right?
And he'd say, "You focus on that dot, and I want you to walk toward that dot."
Okay.
And the arms would go up, and because you were focused on the dot, you'd sort of move through the arms. Then he'd say to another group, okay, I want you to walk toward that dot, but be aware there'll be arms coming up.
Of course.
People be cautious, they'd be stopping before the arm even came up. And then the other one he did is he had you stand with your arm out like this, and they put pressure on it. And then he said, now visualize that you have a telephone pole behind you, a telephone pole in front of you, you have a steel rod going through your arm. The same, they'd put even more pressure on, but the arm wouldn't move.
Right.
And the whole thing is focus on the goal, not the barrier.
Absolutely.
Because if you focus on the barrier,
yes.
if you focus on the barrier, you pause or you're stopping. I will say, even today, even our own companies at times, people tell me, well, they hit a barrier. And that gives them a reason not to go, because why hit a barrier?
Absolutely.
Well, no, how are you going to get around that barrier?
Absolutely.
How are you going to move through that barrier? Because they hit it, well, we don't have enough staff. Well, then how do we figure it out? We don't have this. Well, how are we going to make it happen? And I think it's focusing on the goal, not the barrier. And I will tell you, knowing a lot of businesses and a lot of people, even Community Maritime Park, you talk about barriers.
I bet you had a lot.
Well, we talk about, barriers where, right and left, and you just keep moving through it. And
Absolutely.
I think, because I felt that was important for this community, because when you look at, people would say to me, Quint, I fly into other communities and I see a change. I've been flying into Pensacola for 30 years, and it looks exactly the same.
Absolutely.
And that hit me. And then the other thing is, I felt there was bullying going on, that people would be real, aggressive to stop things. They almost got a joy out of stopping.
Really?
Yeah, and the Trillium project before that had a referendum.
Right.
And it was defeated.
Absolutely.
So that we can stop this. And so, no, when this book comes out from this author, because he sent me some drafts, I started recalling some of the things that we went through.
Absolutely.
And it was sort of amazing. So, and you look at most change, ironically, in most communities, a lot of the change comes from people that aren't from there, because they see it with a fresh set of eyes.
Absolutely.
Where people that are from there always you just start accepting things. And I'll give you and it's easy to accept things. When I went to Holy Cross Hospital in Chicago, it was the inner city hospital in Englewood, which is more shootings per anywhere in the United States of America.
In Chicago, yes.
It's where Martin Luther King was stoned at Marquette Park, and so there's more hatred in Marquette Park than any place in the United States, including Mississippi. Mississippi in there.
God, that's got to be
and we spoke 14 languages, the whole bit. But so when I walked in, because the hospital was in trouble, all their artwork had for sale signs on it. So if you're in the hospital, you like the photo, you can buy the picture. Now, to me, that sort of didn't send the right message when you're selling stuff off your walls. So I said, I don't like that. And they said, well, we got a contract for a year, and we can't, if we get rid of them, we got to pay all this money. So I said, well, in a year, we got to get rid of them. So every time, first 3 months, they drove me crazy. Next 3 months, didn't drive me as crazy. In fact, I started liking a few of them.
I hear you.
Then I used to go into the snack shop for a milkshake in the afternoon, and they had a picture of World Series tickets. And I really liked it.
Of course.
And one day it was gone. And I said, what happened? They said, oh, we sold it. And I said, oh, darn. I should have bought it. And then 3 months later, now a year goes by, and these things aren't bugging me. And I walk through, and the whole hospital looks different. And I'm thinking, did we paint the walls?
No.
And they said, no, the year went up, and this weekend all the photos went down. See, what I'm saying is something that bothered me, I got used to.
I understand.
And then it no longer bothered me.
I hear you.
And I think can fall into that trap of allowing things. And if you're silent, you support it.
Exactly. I agree.
I remember doing Maritime Park.
I tell you what, you hold on one second. Let's go take a break.
Oh, thank
when
you.
we come back, listen, we're going to talk more about this. I say this is so interesting. Jen, I'm sorry. I want just you the ending of it. We'll be right back with Quint Studer right here, Sunshine's Corner on Blab TV. Need a new outfit for a special occasion? Look no further than Viola's Men's Apparel. Viola's has been providing the latest styles and accessories in Pensacola for over 20 years now. We have clothes for every occasion, and we offer consultations and group discounts. You can trust that our care, quality, and class will be unmatched. Viola's Men's Apparel for all of your men wear needs.
This is Wayne at Icon Automotive in Robertsdale, Alabama, and I wanted to tell you more about our powertrain warranty forever. It comes with any vehicle we sell that has 80,000 miles or less at no additional cost to you. We put our vehicles through a tough safety and mechanical inspection before it can have the powertrain warranty forever, giving you a peace of mind with your purchase. This warranty is good anywhere in the country, and it covers 100% of parts and labor with no mileage limit, and is covered as long as you own the vehicle. Come pick out your dealership car at non-dealership pricing with the powertrain warranty forever at Icon Automotive.
Watch a new episode of Crime Stoppers Wanted Fugitives every Friday at 6 p.m., hosted by Sergeant Melanie Peterson and David Craig. Your tips may be eligible for a cash reward, featuring items about officer training, various aspects of police work, and crime prevention information. You'll hear about upcoming family-friendly engagement events as well. Don't miss Crime Stoppers Wanted Fugitives every Friday at 6 p.m.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for volunteering at the Pensacola Habitat Restore today. Your time and dedication will help people save money, find quality items, and help Pensacola Habitat for Humanity serve the community. We couldn't do what we do without you, so thank you.
And welcome back to the hottest spot there is in Pensacola. You know what I call it, it's Sunshine's Corner. We've always will have great guests that's going to keep you informed. And I tell you, when this information, knowledge is power. And we're receiving a lot of power today because I have in studio with me Mr. Quint Studer, who's filled with knowledge, and all the things that he does is absolutely incredible. We continue to talk when we're off camera about things, you know, how we cut that conversation off. We were talking there about how I want to go back to this, though, Quint. When you said about keeping your focus when you got all this weight on you and all the things that happened, and I have to say, I have to use myself as an example. I had to do that.
Yeah.
I had to do that because the first person I called was who?
Well, I think the Peter Senge message is you stay on the goal.
Yes.
And not the barrier.
Right.
There's always going to be barriers.
Right.
One of my columns on Sundays with Quint was on zigzag, career-wise. You know, people, I speak a lot. I'm on the board of CAMI, which accredits its healthcare administration programs. We have Dan Gentry, who's the executive director of AUPHA, which provides resources for all the faculty. And during COVID, he moved from Washington, D.C. to Pensacola, and he's still here. And it's sort of cool. And so, but students will ask me.
Absolutely.
They'll ask me, tell me about your career. And I said, well, it's probably not exactly what you're going through. My career is a little different. But we all go through zigzags.
Yes, we do.
And I think we're going to have different jobs, different things. So it's really how do you adjust to the change? And I think that's really important. How compliant are you? I'm all for compliance, not complying to things that are wrong. But I think sometimes we have to be coachable.
Absolutely, no doubt.
And teachable. And probably the thing I really want to push on lately is recognizing and celebrating positives. Because we just seem to, if we have a positive, it's like, okay, now we go to the next negative.
Right.
And we're doing that at my company. We're doing so many great things, yet I find that we're not celebrating enough. So yesterday with the supervisors, I talked an awful lot about celebrating.
Okay.
And that's why, you know, some of the things that the Juneteenth we're talking about, it's a celebration, but
Absolutely.
it can't be just a one day.
That's right.
I got asked to speak at a church, and it was Sunday, their Sunday of service. And one Sunday a year they go out and do service.
Okay.
I said, shouldn't it be more than one Sunday?
Absolutely.
And they laughed. I mean, you know, they got it.
That's right.
So yeah, I think, you know, you have to look at what's right. I think, you know, I'm a huge fan of Mayor Reeves.
Yes.
And I think we're so fortunate to have him.
Yes.
When Joe Savage was in talking about homeless, and he works in Washington, D.C., he met D.C., and he said publicly, you better take advantage of this guy.
Absolutely.
Because most cities don't have a guy like him.
Absolutely.
And who knows how long he's going to be there.
Absolutely.
So you better, not that DC's thinking about some other job.
I know. I understand totally what you're saying.
You got to take advantage of the momentum. And that's why we miss opportunities here. We miss opportunities because you got to move quick. Because when something has to happen, you have to have, is the revenue there? is the cost of doing it there?
Absolutely.
And is the cost of money there?
Absolutely.
And usually a bank will only hold a interest rate for so long.
Most certainly.
A contractor will only hold the project so long.
Right.
And if you don't move quick, you lose it. And sadly, there's a lot of good things in this town, but there's a lot of opportunities we've missed, like the Y being on parcel 8, which I wanted it there. Center for Entrepreneurship we were going to build.
Oh, right.
$22 million, and we couldn't get it across the finish line. So I'm really comfortable because I think DC understands you don't want to move prematurely, but you got to get your ducks in a row so when something does show up, you're ready to go.
Absolutely. Change is necessary. It may not feel good, but it's necessary.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think that, and with DC, I had him, we've talked on many occasions. I got to get him on the show as well.
Yeah.
But I say this, I want to ask you this. When you say with the community, with the change and the things that we're dealing with, what would you say to inspire people to overcome some of the obstacles, I'm talking about in the Black community right now, that we have to deal with?
Well, I think what we've got to do is make sure our teachers feel better.
Okay.
Because if you look at, I haven't looked at it, but I know our school district measures teacher satisfaction. And I hope it gets public, not to hurt anyone, but you've got to create a great place for your teachers.
Right.
And if you don't create a great place for your teachers, they're not going to be there.
Absolutely, I agree.
You particularly got to create a great place for your teachers in your lower socioeconomic schools, which we have 8 that are really struggling right now. And it can't be even deal.
Right.
So if you got a school with a lot of your children are way behind, you got to put more resources into those classrooms.
Right.
And I wish the Escambia Children's Trust could fund that, because to me, if I'm a teacher and I got a teacher aide, but I've got 25 kids and 14 of them are behind.
Absolutely.
I need more people working with those children.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely.
So I think, even though I know, and I again want Keith Leonard to do extremely well, and Denny Wilson, I've been with him forever too. I knew we want them to do well, but we've got to support those teachers.
Absolutely.
And you've got to create a great place for teachers, because what happens, and I've started a company called Studer Education,
right,
which I sold, but it's still very big.
Right.
In fact, it's working with over 2,000 school districts in the United States. I hope that Escambia County is one of those, and I make no money out of this. Remember, it's Janet Pilcher who runs it, and it's owned out of Chicago now. However, they do great work, and so they have 2,000 schools that they work with. And what you've got to really look at is these schools that are underperforming is how do you create a great place for those people to teach?
Most certainly.
Because here's what happens. I take my first job and the openings in the school that is struggling.
Okay,
So as soon
absolutely.
as I get a little experience, what do? I transfer out
Okay.
to another school.
Okay.
Says I want to keep my benefits. However, that means the schools that are struggling sometimes have all the less experienced teachers.
Really?
Now, I understand less experienced teachers, they're wonderful.
Right.
But it's good if they have a bunch of experienced teachers with them.
Absolutely, to educate them, to keep them moving in the right direction.
And teach them. So I think we've moved everything up here except our school district.
Okay.
And I think our school board, again, we got Keith Leonard, our school board, according to the quality of life, only 22% thought they were doing a good job. So I think school board has to say to Keith Leonard, and I think they will, because that's their guy that they chose now unanimously. They need to say, Keith, what do you need from us?
Okay.
Because we got to deliver it for you.
I understand.
And we can fight about all this book stuff, but that's a distraction in many ways to what we need to do is make sure the teachers are teaching and feel they're supported and they have the resources.
Right.
We brought, for Civicon, we brought the superintendent of schools from Birmingham that was at 53 schools, and then it moved way up. And she talked about some of the creative stuff, and she went out into the community, and I think if a child had perfect attendance, they got dollars, money. And I had a principal one time say, well, that's not my job to go raise money. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. If you want those, because we got bonuses for teachers.
Okay.
I was talking to Mayor Reeves yesterday,
Okay.
and we were talking about education. And we were talking about, the key is how do we reduce absenteeism? So in Kentucky, I paid I gave some money to a school district in Wisconsin to pay subs so their teachers could go learn from other schools.
Really?
So they went to a school in Kentucky that was way poorer than the school in Wisconsin.
Really?
Because they always use that excuse, we're poor.
Right.
And they found out that 2 weeks before the school started, all the teachers came in and visited the parents at their homes and places to get to know them before the school year even started.
I got you.
So all of a sudden I'm talking to you and I'm saying, you know, so-and-so's going to be there, right? So I think we've got to look at best practices around the country and not be so isolated, because there's answers out there, but we can't let that excuse be, well, we can't do that here.
That's right.
Just like people say we can't do a lot of stuff here.
Right.
And so I think if there's one thing we've got to be supportive of, it's Keith Leonard, Denny Wilson, but really, this should be the best place in the United States to be a teacher. And if we're there, then we'll have the best community possible.
Okay, so I see you start, education is the key. We start there and it will work forward.
Well,
and do
that's
better.
why the 0 to 3.
Okay.
If these kids aren't ready for kindergarten, we're already have an arm behind a public school teacher to try to catch them up.
Right.
And then what happens, and I'm getting real political right
Come on now.
Is parents, you can't blame them, pull their kids out of the public school system. I mean, in many cities, there aren't near the private schools we have.
Absolutely, we have a lot.
Because they don't need private schools, because who wants to pay tuition if the public school system's there? So when these parents pull their child out of the public school system and put them in a private school, not only does this child, the school district lose the child, they lose the parent.
Okay.
They use that intellectual capital of the parent that says, we want this to be a better school district.
Most
so I was
certainly.
talking to a very big community leader, and he was talking about public education and blah, blah, blah. And then when we got done, I said, well, I'll give this whole spiel on what I just did. I said, where do your kids go? And he told me, a private school.
Okay,
So,
I hear you.
And I get it. You can't blame the parents for
Right.
that. But because we have so many kids that go to private schools, those parents are more focused on the private school than how
And
do we
how
make
to
our
make the public schools any
education
better.
So, and in Escambia County, we have a lot of private schools.
No doubt.
And I
okay.
bet you that's different than Santa Rosa.
Absolutely. We're down to the last minute. And I tell you, I wish I could talk to you a whole nother hour because I'm getting so filled. But I want to say to you, thank you for getting up early to come in.
It wasn't early. 9 o'clock's not that early.
To come in with me
And
to
I was
talk.
with Rick Outzen on a show talking about Father's Day
Oh,
earlier. So
wow.
he got me first tonight.
I got you. Okay. Well, listen to this, everybody. What Quint just said, I want to say Happy Father's Day to you. And for all the parents, all the fathers, Happy Father's Day. And do something special for your dad today. Let me leave you as I do every single day from my heart. Never, ever, ever lose your focus. Whatever you do, always remember to keep that focus, keep God first, and I'll guarantee you, you're going to be a total success. So until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for another day that filled with nothing but sunshine and information, right here, you tell somebody, check out Sonshine, Blab TV. Keep shining while I'm gone and know that I do love you with a perfect kind of love. Until the next time, bye for now.